brand's marketing efforts. Although it can be done completely externally, I think most larger organizations are trying to figure this piece out. As I mentioned with the ballet, it's lumped in with public relations, which is interesting. But staying current in this world is absolutely necessary. The terrain changes every 2 weeks, especially on Facebook. So there are a lot of proactive sub-educators in this field. So even what I tell you today might not be relevant in a week or two, so keep that in mind. A lot of the data I'm sharing with you today comes from a man named Dan Zarella. He's on HubSpot. Again, I'm going to give you a lot of my sources at the end because they're great places to keep up on some of this information. He did the most in-depth behavior research, pulling the largest groups possible for some of the statistics that I'm going to give you. And we could spend all day on this topic, so I'm going to try to keep it simple and really give you the most important channels that I feel are necessary for brands today and some of the best practices. Some of them are pretty simple and will seem intuitive to you as personal users, but keep in mind that for big brands who are doing a million things and trying to be heard through all of the noise, some of these very simple best practices like stay positive are very important for a brand to hear. So the target here, increase brand awareness, engage existing fans, provide customer service, and encourage loyalty are sort of the four key examples of what a brand is trying to do. And again, I'll ask for a raise of hands, but I'm assuming it's everyone in the room. Do you all follow your favorite brands on social media channels? Just think about the next two questions. You don't have to answer, but how often do you actually click on, comment, or like the post that your favorite brands put out? And what percentage of those brands do you actually purchase from? Or a lot of them in your feeds just for inspiration? So one of the best practices that I'm going to start out with is going back to a little bit of our content marketing theory, but good social media on a brand is actually giving you 70% of what you want. So inspiration, posts that don't have a lot to do with you actually making a purchase, but more to keep you involved and engaged in that brand. And then 30% of what I want you to hear. So on my ballet channels, it might be 70% of just beautiful pictures of ballerinas, and 30% of where you can buy tickets and special offers that I might have. That seems to be the key mix right now. Again, that's always and constantly moving. So this is an image from Boston Ballet's Facebook page, and I'm using this as an example of combined relevance. Again, this comes from Dan Zarella, but we noticed that most people who like ballet also like fashion. This was an image from an Across fashion show we held as a fundraising event. But we noticed that by offering two things that fans love combined together rather than just the one, we actually see more likes, more comments, and more engagement. Another best practice, again, pretty intuitive, I think, to all of you power users in the room, but using images. Regardless of the social media channel, posts with images garner more likes and interactions than posts without. And the one I was saying that seems most obvious, positive sentiment, but a simple Happy St. Patrick's Day post with this image from Emerald was actually one of our most successful organic posts that we've had all season. So speaking of, actually let me go back 1 second. This again is a Zarella quote that I love. Positivity works better than negativity, but both work better than neutrality. So no one likes a neutral social media post. But speaking of negativity, one of the largest challenges we have in social media as a brand is dealing with controversy. These are just a few examples of things I've heard over the years. And as a social media manager, one of your key roles is customer service. And often this goes hand in hand with your PR director. And really just constant monitoring of all of your different channels is a huge task. And also maybe look at it as a huge opportunity for employment. So some of the things we do to manage controversy is a quick response rate. I find it's always best to apologize without actually accepting responsibility. Take it offline, take it off social as quickly as you can. We're sorry to hear that you're upset. Please call our customer relations department and they'll work with you on this. Change the conversation and flood the channel. Bury the negative with positive. It's not a best practice to delete a negative comment unless it's something that is a threat or something that is inappropriate. for the most part, you want to be honest and leave even your negative feedback on your site. But the quicker you can get it down in the feed, the better. So have some great content that's positive and happy to kind of fill it in and get those negative responses further down the line. So Facebook. Facebook is no longer even a question for brands. It's a must-have. It's the #1 most important channel for your brand worldwide with over 1 billion users. Facebook users spend 11% of their time online on Facebook, 22% of their mobile time on Facebook, and 7 hours a month. 50% of Facebook users visit their Facebook site daily. This is showing you the peaks in interaction and sharing rate. So as a brand, we look at a lot of metrics to see when is the best time to post. So sharing peaks early in the day for Facebook, later in the day for Twitter. So I can post something on Facebook in the morning and then tweet about it later in the day. And that gets me the most interaction, highest shares, highest retweets. Again, I mentioned before, Facebook gives us some great analytical tools right on the site for a brand, which if you're not managing a brand site, you may not have used a lot on your own personal page, but they actually have a lot that caters to a business right now that is free of charge, of course, until you start promoting and boosting your posts, which then come with free. Generally speaking, we try to use contra-competitive timing. This means trying to post when the least amount of people are posting so that you're heard. So again, talking about that leisure time and posting early morning, late in the evening, weekends, rather than when it's most convenient for my team, which would be middle of the workday. And testing what works best for your brand is really important. Not just using these larger data sets, but also seeing how your specific followers engage with you. This is sort of sad, but true. The simple language gets more shares on Facebook. As the reading grade level increases on a post, the number of times it's shared decreases. Thought that one was interesting, I had to share that. And then the effective video sharing, this is a comparison between Facebook and Twitter. Stories that have videos get shared more on Facebook. Tweets that have videos get shared less, although Twitter even just released this past week multi-photo sharing, and so I would imagine the statistic is going to change pretty quickly as they make it easier to upload videos. Again, the takeaway here is that Facebook is a better platform for sharing videos than Twitter. Speaking of Twitter, I'd say this is #2 for brands in terms of importance. It's simple, it's fast, it's vast. How much should we tweet? Again, according to HubSpot, accounts with the most followers on Twitter in general, on average, are tweeting 22 times a day. So we get asked a lot, how much should we be tweeting? Chances are more than you are. It's hard to over-tweet, but again, be careful not to be boring. No one wants to hear what Mark Jacobs said for breakfast, or maybe they do. Depends on what kind of a fan you are. Again, Dan Zarella took a data set of more than 1.2 million tweets, and he found that with hashtags were 55% more likely to be retweeted than tweets that did not have hashtags. And as a brand manager, or campaign manager, we use hashtags in the ballet to follow how many people are commenting or interacting with, let's say, our performance of jewels. Marc Jacobs has a campaign running right now that is no keyboard, no problem. I guess someone's keyboard broke, and their whole campaign is all about handwritten notes. Their photos of handwritten notes. Kind of funny, but it's a way for them to monitor, going back to working smart, monitoring how that campaign is working and whether something like that will work for the brand again. I hope I'm not bursting in this bubble that working in social media is all about fun. It's actually a lot of analytics, but I promise not too many more bar graphs or line graphs. So another, I thought, interesting statistic is that tweets between 100 and 115 characters are 34% more likely to be retweeted. As soon as you get to 120, they drop off. So generally speaking, the longer the tweet, the better, but not more than 120 characters. Social calls to action work. This is Twitter, but it's actually all different social media channels. This is, I thought, just kind of really obvious and funny, but actually asking people to please retweet means that they will. Even better so than asking them to please RT or not doing anything at all. And again, so you ask them to share, like, pin, depending on what channel you're using. Instagram. People are following a brand on Instagram because they want to look at you, look at your brand. So one of my suggestions there is go behind the scenes, candids and casual photos, things that they're not going to see in the cover of Vogue or on some of the larger blogs. And fashion posts are great ways for them to feel like they're part of your family and getting to see some inside things. Here's an example of that combined relevance I was talking about before, fashion and pets. Generally speaking, on all social media channels, images of dogs and cats do well. I'm sure you're all aware of that. But it's not beneath a brand like Mark to join in on the fun. In fact, one of my favorite things on my Instagram feed, it's actually Mark's dog Neville has his own Instagram, and it's adorable. I'm not above it either. So. But again, going back to that 70-30, so I just showed you 2 posts that have to do with nothing that would make you buy something at Marc Jacobs, but then one that is actually a lovely way of showing their new beauty products. So 70% what you want to see and 30% what the brand wants you to see. And this isn't a hard sell, this is just a lovely image of their new makeup line. YouTube. Keeping up a stream of engaging content on video is incredibly important. And it's important for these videos to live on your brand's website as well as on YouTube. You always want to have them on YouTube because that's where you can actually find new followers and new fans to engage. YouTube is the 2nd most used search engine next to Google. This is a kind of an interesting example. Mark created a pop-up store that they called a tweet shop. They actually didn't sell anything in the shop. You waited outside to get in, you tweeted about the new fragrance and the experience inside, which was actually more like an art gallery. And then they took a video and put it on YouTube. So it was Twitter, it was brand experience, and it was YouTube. And Pinterest, this is a screen grab of our ballet Pinterest site. So research shows that Pinterest is the site most closely tied to purchasing behavior. But the data for Pinterest is not public. It's not a public API. So there's very little tracking we can actually do to see if someone is going from a Pinterest page to a brand and converting on a sale. But it is a wonderful place for fashion, dance, food. We have a special board for the ballet's retail products and also for the costume shop, which is one of my favorites. Stacks and stacks of tutus and point shoes. And research shows that actually writing about your image on Pinterest enhances the repin numbers. That was a surprise to me, but you shouldn't be afraid to share why you love the image under the image because that actually enhances the amount of repins that image will get. Okay, so positions in social media, quite similar to content marketing, but social media managers. This could also be an associate. It's moving away from something that brands are having interns come in and do and moving into more of a managerial, more of an upper management role because the value has just shifted that way for brands. Content creating, again, creating those videos, those great pictures, blogging, and the analytics piece, which is huge. It really will depend on the size of the brand, and in many cases, social media will fall into the PR and marketing departments, as I said before, as part of a fully integrated plan. And again, the value of analytics is huge. If you can't measure it, why are you doing it? Know what works best for your brand and understand the message of your brand, but cater to the behavior of each individual channel of followers that you have on all of the different social media channels. So I'm not going to preach about this because I think you've already probably heard this, but as you prepare for graduating and going out into the workplace, know that your potential employers will Google you. I Google anyone that I have an interview with, usually before and after. And at this point, I mean, all of our personal lives are on social. I'm not going to suggest that it shouldn't be there. But I do want you to consider your online presence just like you would consider a brand's online presence. Can you create positive content for yourself that would maybe flood out some of the images that maybe you aren't so excited for your future employer to see? For example, do you have a great profile on LinkedIn? Do you have your own blog, or is there a place where I might be able to see how great your writing style is? Do you have an avenue for showcasing some of your designs or some of your photographs? Or things that you've styled in the past, projects that you've worked on. All of that is interesting. It's sometimes less intuitive to share that on social than it is to share where we had a great taco a couple nights ago. So I would encourage you all to think about content marketing for yourself, especially as you're starting to go out on interviews, and really sort of flooding the social media channels with your own positive content so that you can really express who you are and sell yourself to your future employers. Put things out there that show you you're the type of person a brand would want to hire. And last but not least, my advice is stay relevant, self-educate. Don't just read what's on social media, read about social media. Read about best practices. If it's an industry that you're interested in, read how to master it. The world of fashion and the arts is a quickly moving target, but from personal experience, I say it's one that's well worth the effort. And here are just a few suggested sources that I used for this slideshow, and when I distribute it, I'll make sure that all of the sources are under all the different data sets that I had out there for you. So, any questions?
Back to the
Sure.
slide that showed reading level. That's
Sure.
kind of shocking. It looked like second grade.
It's sad, but it's true. Yeah. So second grade is the most shared. It should always. It is. Yeah, I had to put it in there because I was shocked as well. But it's all about writing, with nouns and verbs and not with adverbs and with adjectives. It's about really, best marketing practices of getting your message out there clearly and succinctly and without a whole lot of action, especially if there's an image attached. Any other questions? I'll be here afterwards for a few minutes too, so if it's something you'd rather ask in person. All right, well, thank you for having me. Appreciate it.